Welcome, Melissa, to the Biohacker Babes. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Nice to see you in your new home in Nashville.
Yes, thank you. On the day. Wow, this is a great welcome to Nashville.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we're so happy to be chatting with you today about broth. This is a staple in our diet, and you've created a really awesome company. So we know that gut health is hugely essential to immune and overall health, and that healing your gut was a big part of your health journey and helped you to discover bone broth. So you made a company that made finding broth really easy, clean, accessible, all of which we are really, really appreciative of. And so is our audience. And another piece of this puzzle is that the healthier that we are on the inside, the more beautiful we appear on the outside, which is a great benefit. And I know that is a huge draw to your company, hence the name Beauty and the Broth. So just to kick off, we're curious, how did you come to this driving force of beauty being like such a huge draw to the broth?
So, a couple of reasons why I made Beauty the Draw to the broth, one of which all my life I really, really suffered with awful chronic digestive issues. And I think it's just far more common than we all think. We just never know it's the root of it. And I was never one of these, health conscious people. I was just young and, had fast metabolism. So I never cared when it was so much more than appearance. So when I started drinking bone broth recommended by my sister to fix these digestive issues, I'm someone who came from a background in acting and modeling, and I take more care of the exterior of my skin than I do what I put down my throat. So then when I started trying bone broth and I fixed my digestive issues and brain fog, then I started to see what it did to my hair, skin, and nails. And I was shocked. Like, I'm very candid. I'll tell people, like, I've had Botox before. I'm very much into it. I think it's a preventative. And I have to tell you, after drinking bone broth, that timer that it was like, oh my God, I need to get to the doctor before anyone sees me, went away from drinking bone broth. So I was shocked by that. I was shocked to see how powerful it was because of the high amounts of natural occurring collagen. But then also coming from the background I came from, like, how fun is that? Like to, have marketing geared toward beauty. And of course you get the people who love bone broth, but also people looking for a reliable source of collagen, since, collagens become a hot topic, and a lot of these powders your gut can't actually ingest. So I think collagen is a real hero ingredient in bone broth.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting about the powder thing, because you do go to the grocery store, the health food store, and you see like collagen powders everywhere. Like the news is out that collagen is good, but I think anytime we can get it from its natural source, right? Like our ancestors were consuming bone broth all the time. They weren't scooping collagen powder into their smoothies in the morning, right? So yeah, I think that's so powerful. So what other benefits can we see from collagen? So beauty, skin health, hair, skin, nails, I guess,
Yeah.
gut health.
So collagen's so important because the older we get, I don't care who you are and what your genetics are like, collagen depletes over time. So yeah, collagen is basically the backbone to your skin and the elasticity and what keeps it up. So collagen not only is obviously great for your skin, but also for your joints. The collagen in your joints wears over time, and you wear that, and then that's when it leads to other issues as you get older. So it also is really, really great for your joints, and of course, healing and lining your gut. Collagen is so essential for your whole skeletal body.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not to mention the high count of amino acids, which are also really healing. So maybe you could talk a little bit about that as well.
Yeah, so bone broth is very high in amino acids. And what I love to tell people about bone broth, which really took me by surprise, is when you drink it and your gut starts to form little holes in it, calls from bad digestion, which I think we're all guilty of sometimes. And then your cells think it's a foreign invader, and it goes to attack the particles of food and stuff that seeps out of your gut. And then that's what could lead to chronic illness and certainly leads to inflammation. So bone broth literally goes in and fills in those holes in your gut and creates a lining. And then while it creates the lining, it's pumping your gut directly with the collagen and amino acids. So the list goes on and what that's beneficial for. And I remember at the time, I couldn't believe it got rid of my brain fog. I just couldn't possibly understand. And it's because there's so many microbes, there's trillions of microbes in your gut, living beings. So bone broth goes in there and regulates them and gives it the good stuff you need, like amino acids and collagens, and it regulates it. So that's what clears up the brain fog, since your emotions are coming from your gut. That's why they say gut feelings. Your personality, they're linking to our gut. Anxiety, depression, autoimmune diseases, not to mention 85% of your immunity. So bone broth is super, super powerful for lining, regulating, and giving you those essential nutrients. And I recently just took a nutrition course online, and to get all 21 amino acids, first of all, it's challenging for vegetarians, but it is possible. But even it needs to be like the exact ratio. Otherwise, it just doesn't use ones that you put in you. So the fact that bone broth represents a lot of the amino acids is very, very huge, and a great source to get all of it, because that's one thing that your body can't produce itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like with all these supplements and powders and proteins on the market, we're isolating so many things away from their natural state. And as you said, we don't digest and absorb them as well. And I think with like the plant-based movement, I'm just seeing more and more people trying to get it in forms that are so far from the natural state. Like, it just got off the phone with the clients, like plant protein, like don't think that's the optimal way. Maybe it's helpful to get some things we're missing out on, but like, what is happening at the absorption and digestive level? And I think that's really powerful for someone that, such as yourself, that cared about beauty, but it's an inside out job, right? We can't just like put a cream on our skin to heal something. We have to go in and say, what do we need to heal and repair? So I really appreciate that. I'm curious. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. It really made sense to me, the fact that we all take care of our skin on the outside with creams and taking our makeup off, but what are we doing from the inside to reinforce it? And it makes a lot of, if you have bad skin and you're struggling, a lot of times, like, you literally have to look within and see what's going on in your gut and what's your diet like and how you could cleanse and heal your gut.
Yeah. I'm curious, were you doing any other nutrition and lifestyle changes to support that? Or was it purely the broth where you started to notice a difference?
So this is also what I like. I was like the anti-healthy person. I was like having chicken parm a week. I just did not care. Like, I wasn't like super big into working out. Like, I just like stayed whatever. And it just became, and I never thought I'd convert, like, and it just became more about how I felt, and I started to see some of the implications. So that's when I bone broth was like my gateway drug into working out. I'm not some sort of like hardcore person, but I love like my group classes, and working out's definitely important to help with your, blood insulin levels as well. But then I started to make changes, and instead of having 2 healthy days a week, did the reverse and did healthy days, and started to create a well-balanced diet. And I found that I really loved cooking, and it's so much easier. Things you love, like chicken parm, you actually can make healthy. So everything in moderation is how the approach I kind of took, and to adapt some of my favorite recipes and make healthier versions that suit me, and staying healthy, because eating healthy is also a state of mind.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I love that.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I feel like it's a tagline, like broth is a gateway drug to better health. I feel like they're really awesome. It's like, whatever it takes. If broth is the thing, is amazing.
It's such a gateway.
Yeah.
We might need to title this episode that. Just
broth is a gateway drug. That's really funny. I love it.
Yeah. Oh, now I forget what I was going to say. Yeah. With, as far as like making healthy changes, I find it's easier to get clients to add something into their diet or routine rather than take it away. Cause then they're always thinking about, I can't have this, I can't have that. And that's something that's really cool about bone broth is it's just something you add in. I'm curious, how often do you drink it? Do you drink it every day, once a day, or?
Hey, and I swear it was a gateway drug because not only does it also not only does it nourish you, but it curbs your appetite. It curbs craving. So it saves you from yourself. And the fact that it clears up the brain fog, which makes you feel unmotivated and leaves you kind of in the slug factor, it makes you want to be a better person.
The benefits are endless.
Quotes.
The gateway.
Yes. So awesome.
Well, that's definitely perfect as this episode is coming out right around the holidays. So drink your bone broth before you go to the party or the big dinner or whatever.
No, it's great. It's really, really great. And I do just that. Or after a workout, I get so hungry. And that's when I try to keep cookies out of the house, but I'm also a human being. So sometimes they make their way in. So after workout, if there's cookies around, it's game over. So I'll literally drink bone broth just to really just save me from myself.
Yeah. And from a gut health perspective, I mean, we are so susceptible to inflammatory events post-workout. Our gut becomes really vulnerable. So that's like eons of a difference.
Yeah.
Bone broth or cookies post-workout. So yeah, really awesome. And even made it so easy. So it comes in these packets. That has like been my biggest complaint about bone broth. I mean, I used to make it in the wintertime. I pull out the Instapot, put all the stuff in, you wait a really long time.
Yeah.
But as I'm traveling more and more, I need something that is easy, accessible, and travelable. Is that a word? Travelable.
It is.
Sure. And your packets are really awesome for that. So thank you for that package.
Yeah, no, I was finding the same thing, especially during the research and development phase when I kept meal prepping bone broth and it was like fridge. Oh wait, I'm throwing away this again. Freezer, fridge, freezer. Oh wait, it's been 5 days in the fridge. Got to throw it out. And even the thought, this sounds like so lazy, but it's true. Even like the thought of having like a pot in there, all I needed to do was pour some in like a mug and heat it up or on the stovetop. And just the mental thought of doing that or just grabbing one of my pouches, pouring it in a cup and adding hot water, the mental aspect of it, every time I wanted to just grab one of my pouches. And you know, in order for the bone to break down in bone broth, which is where you see a lot of the benefit, you know, cooking, having it on a slow simmer for at least 24 hours is the best way for the bone to break down. And the slow cooker, you know, it's a good way if that's the option. You don't, you know, really want to leave it while you're gone on the stove. But I find that it has a harder time for the bone to break down during the slow cooker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I second that, the ease of the packets. Cause I was definitely guilty of that. Like I would buy it frozen and then it would be the back and forth and then I would toss it cause it had been too long. Yeah. So I love the packets. I also want to talk about the quality because I think something I saw maybe 5-10 years ago with clients is they would come in and be like, oh, I heard bone broth is good. I went to the local grocery store and I bought bone broth off the shelf, just like a box of it. And you're like, that's not the same thing. Right. So there's a difference in that, but also you have gone like to extreme lengths to make sure yours is the best quality. So can you talk a little bit more about that? Like where you're sourcing the bones and
have no idea the extremes. Woo!
I'm sure it's a lot. Yeah.
It's a lot. And you know, whether you buy your bone broth from me or someone else, just please read the ingredients. I was shocked at a lot of the buzzwords: gluten-free, organic, paleo friendly, keto, all the things. And on the back, I see freaking sugar as like the fourth ingredient. Like who puts sugar in bone broth? I don't know, but
it doesn't sound good.
It's just bizarre. So that really annoys me. Obviously.
Yep. Yeah.
So the sourcing is something that was really, really important to me because I'm not someone who's like in the food industry by any stretch. I'm just someone who became passionate about bone broth with this acting and modeling background. So I'm like, okay, if I'm going to make this jump, I'm not going to do it if it's just going to do what everyone else is doing, like, or anything mediocre. Like, it needs to be the best. So, and you guys saw my dogs earlier. I love animals. I'm like, one day I actually want to farm with animals where I pets. And so sourcing is something that was really important to me. So we're technically animal GAP welfare rated 4, which is the highest you can be, which means the animals could roam around. The beef is grass fed, grass finished. The chicken and the beef, there's no antibiotics or hormones. The chicken's free range. So it's all the things. And we primarily source our chicken from Mary's Organic Chicken, which is great, because that's like even like restaurant quality. And the beef we source 2 different farms in America. So the sourcing was the number one thing. And then to not make any cheats on the ingredients. You see so many like xanthan gums in so many of the bone broths, or you look at their nutrient count. And it's like, okay, like, thanks for nothing. Like, the protein's really low, and there's not a whole lot to it. They're just, buzzword, bone broth. And then, of course, we're all USDA organic, and there's no salt added to our recipes. So we're low in sodium. The only sodium comes from the cook process, not because we add any salt in it. So people can't believe that aspect. And that's something I'm really, really proud of the flavor we achieve from real ingredients and no cheat codes and masking of ingredients with things like salt and, certain additives. So that was the number one thing, was quality. And apples to apples with other bone broths being in concentrated form. Once you add our recommended 8 ounces of water to the concentrate, it's a little bit more than 2 times stronger than an average bone broth. In the chicken, there's 15 grams of protein and 3 ounces, and the beef is 14 grams of protein, where one of my competitors just made their first single serve broth in an 8, I think it's like 8, or it might be like 8 or 12 ounces. It's like a frozen brick. And I looked at the back and there was 6 grams of protein. So we're like more than double.
Wow.
So it's something I'm very proud to make it that convenient with real benefit you could achieve from it.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you did this on purpose, but it almost feels like a DIY experience because it's the concentrate. You could add as much liquid as you want. You haven't already added the sodium. So I love adding my own sea salt and flavoring. So you can kind of make it what you want it to be, rather than having the single serve broth. It's like, you kind of get what you get.
No, and it was intentional. We didn't launch when I first was coming up with all the concepts and stuff. We ended up pivoting into that by a set of very fortuitous circumstances that led to me visiting our co-manufacturer, where, I was initially, we were going to be, fully reconstituted. And when I learned that they shipped it to the co-packer in the concentrated form, and then the co-packer puts the water back in it, I'm like, well, what's the difference here? They're like, nothing, same exact thing. It just, you're shipping, from point A to B, it's frozen. So they're like, it's really expensive to ship a frozen product. So they add the water, then they make it shelf stable. So I'm like, why would I do that? It's way more convenient. And I know from, using all my friends as guinea pigs to try all my competitors, it was like the 3 little bears, right? Too strong, too gamey. So the concentrate is a great opportunity to make it customizable to you.
Yeah. And also add in your own clean water. Cause sometimes I would doubt what products are putting in from a water source where we can get all kinds of toxins, pesticides. And so I appreciate that. And Renee, I'm sorry, I cut you off again. Go ahead.
No, that's a great point. No, I was just going to add about the salt is usually when I buy bone broth, I like dump sea salt in there because I love salt. I don't even add salt to this.
Well,
I'm so much flavor.
I'm very sensitive to salt because I have a family member or a very close friend that's like a family member. Their mom died, and a lot of it was linked. She was old. She died of old age, but what initially did her in her old age was way too high of sodium. She would just dump salt on everything. So that always stuck with me, and I would just always slap away salt, become super sensitive to it. And so I'm really proud that it tastes that good without salt. And then, there's people like you that love salt, and that's fine. We all have our different cravings, but then you add it in yourself and you would probably do it anyways. But the ones on the market, if you look at the sodium count, it's unbelievably high.
Yeah, much easier to add it in than to take it out. There's nothing worse than over salted.
Yeah, totally ruins it. Yeah. And I will say one other thing about the bones. I love that you're sourcing it so cleanly, because I've heard that the bones is where the animals can store a lot of toxins, right? Like heavy metals that are in the environment and whatever. So you're better off not drinking bone broth if you're not going to get the good stuff.
I completely agree. Like the quote, "You are what you eat," has never been so true and accurate in my mind, where I used to just kind of ignore it. But now I'm like, no, seriously, it's true. And if you're eating a sickly, poor treated, stressed out animal, guess what? You're getting the benefit from a poor, weakly, stressed out animal, which is more harm than it is good. So it's really, and this is really, really important. You want an animal that's treated reputably, eating what it's intended to eat in nature, with, not pumping them up and treating them poorly.
Yeah, and those circumstances really change depending on the animal. Obviously, beef are larger animals, so they have more space. They generally are given more space. Even chickens that are labeled as free range, no hormones, they could still be packed into like a very small space. I'm glad you mentioned Mary's. I immediately went to the website and they have a video of the chickens. I'm like, anytime you can see a video of the farm and the chickens, I'm like, okay, because we know chickens are small. And so naturally we give them less space. And there's a lot of organic chicken on, from farms or on the market that still is not, they're not giving their chickens the space that they really, really do deserve. And there's a lot of stress in that animal and we're eating it. So
totally. It's burn and churn game. At the beginning of COVID, when we were supposed to launch at the beginning of COVID anyways, I wanted to go to the farms and do Instagram lives there, because why wouldn't you? Cool. But I am going to revisit in the new year, especially when it gets warmer out again, because I couldn't go and do that because of COVID. But now as things, we're all way more used to it now.
Yeah,
totally.
Yeah. That's like, I think the name is Vital Farms. I'm kind of blanking on the egg carton.
Oh,
I love that when you go in, you can actually look up like a live stream sometimes of the chickens.
That's cute.
So cool.
I love it. Sometimes you can hear birds chirping in the back. You like hear the wind rustling through the grass. I'm like, that's it.
That's my chicken.
Right. That's my chicken.
My chicken. So you have two main products. You have a beef concentrate and you have a chicken concentrate. You also can get both. How did you decide on those two options, and then like the added herbs, other ingredients that you put into them?
So I really wanted to launch the vegan SKU too. It was really important to me, but I just needed to launch, and it was something that I'm proud to say is finally launching in January. So, we had to knock one off for launch. And the way I decided ahead of, locking the recipe, when I was doing this research and development phase, when I'm like, okay, I'm going to start a bone broth company. And obviously I did a lot of research at sourcing powerful ingredients and stuff like that. But like I said, my background is in acting and modeling and international marketing. I'm by no stretch a nutritionist, although now I have a class under my belt that I finished yesterday.
Yay, congrats.
But I hired this lovely gal to help me develop the recipes, where she was a chef, nutritionist, and Ayurveda specialist. So we worked together on these recipes. So she was really, telling me, in the chicken, there's turmeric and ginger, and that only aids with your immunity and keeping down inflammation, and are what I like to call luxury ingredients. Then in the beef, there's mushrooms and kelp and all these things that just really further power the benefits of bone broth. And then from there, when I realized, okay, we need a co-manufacturer, I found this really amazing one that does small batch that works with people like me. And I love them. They are great. I got very, very lucky, and we worked a lot trying to adapt those recipes to their cooking style. So then from there, it had to be tweaked and changed a bit to adapt, because like certain things with like, just like little things, like I liked the chicken soaked in water and apple cider vinegar for 24 hours in advance. Like that just wasn't happening. But I liked it. I changed the flavor, but they were able to achieve that same flavor through their cook process and their cook time and their infrastructure.
So
Cool.
I'm curious, what do you see as like the future of bone broth? Like having it on the go? Like, what do you think?
So we're going to refer back to this conversation. Bone broth is going to be drank like tea, coffee. Ma'am, what could I get you? Coffee, tea, bone broth? Like I'm telling you, it's going to be like that. It's going to be integrated in our lives. It's just heating up, no pun intended. It's been around since caveman days. I think we finally come to a point, especially with things like COVID, where we want natural and ancient remedies, and we're kind of more exploratory into our health, I think, from COVID. So I see this being on planes everywhere, like, and it's also, people use it as a meal replacement. And right now they're doing the gut microbiome project, just like they did the Human Genome Project. So the information we're learning about our gut microbiome is massive. They call our gut the second brain, but like sometimes some of this information I hear, I'm like, what's actually more important here, the brain or the gut? So the fact that bone broth literally lines, heals, and regulates your gut, and this information we're starting to learn about it, I think that the best is yet to come for bone broth.
It's pretty exciting.
I think so too.
Well, both of you being more New York based, I know there you can get bone broth to go, but here in Vegas, that's not an option yet.
Which is where this idea came from. Is I got introduced to bone broth in New York, and I would grab it hot on the go. There's a few places that do that. And then back in Los Angeles, which I consider to be the center of health and wellness, they didn't have anything like that. So I was like,
funny.
That's weird.
That is funny. I guess everyone's still on the green juice more so than the broth.
Yeah, true. So I saw a need in the market, not only there, but then to make it this convenient, it's that on the go model I love, but in all 50 states.
Yeah.
Definitely filling the missing link. You're filling it in. So it's so great.
I'm trying.
Totally. So just to come back to the two options. So you have the beef and then you have the chicken. And I noticed in the beef, as you said, has a lot more added herbs and ingredients, something like garlic, which would be potentially a no-no for someone that has something like SIBO or is like really histamine sensitive. So it's nice that you have that option. Was that on purpose? And so obviously the chicken is a little more of a base, not as triggering.
I wanted the SKUs to really complement each other. When you try the chicken, it's definitely more of a clean taste and more clean ingredients and no onions and garlic, which, like you said, some people can't have. And then the beef, of course, there's a lot of people that do love onions and garlic, and, which a lot of people put in bone broth. So I really wanted it. And that one's kind of has a more interesting depth of flavor. Whereas the chicken, you taste more clean and you definitely taste the ginger and turmeric. So you could tell that they belong together, same family, but one's more compliant. Like sometimes I even give my dogs a little bit of the chicken one, but not the beef because of the onions and garlic. So that was very much intentional to have kind of something for everyone upon lunch.
Yeah, I've given it to my dog. He loves it.
I love it.
I'm not sure who loves broth more, me or my dog.
Really?
Oh yeah. He's super picky. And as he gets older, he wants less and less dry food. And so we're incorporating more wet food, but the hack there is like add some broth to the dry food and bam.
Don't worry, guys. Nice. Q1 Beauty in the Bark is going to have bone broth next year.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes. It's a work in progress.
Beauty in the Bark.
Oh, that's excellent.
I love the names. Beauty and the Beast is one of my favorite movies ever growing up.
Me too. I would show you my phone case, but we're on it. The back of it is Princess Belle and the whole Beauty and the Beast theme.
Oh, cool.
Oh, you're making Renee so happy.
I almost got to be Princess Belle at Hong Kong Disneyland.
No.
Almost made it. That would have been so cool.
That's like a fun fact. That's really cool.
It's a fun fact.
You're us.
What was that?
You are Princess Belle to us.
Oh,
Oh,
thank you.
She's always been a Disney princess, but maybe you should take some Beauty in the Broth to Disney for the Disney princesses. That would just help business all around.
This is true. Good point.
Yep, for sure.
So I'm curious, any other contraindications? I mean, you have the chicken for someone that's dealing with some more sensitive gut issues. Anyone else that should not be drinking broth?
So I try to figure this out myself. But it's such a great, to me, it's like the answer for everything. Just like people in Austria, their answer for everything is like schnapps. Oh, you alcohol poisoning schnapps, stomach bug schnapps. To me, it's bone. Like even for people trying to get pregnant, for people that are pregnant, for people in postpartum, bone broth. For people with depression, autoimmune, anxiety, bone broth. I guess there's people that are, I don't know. I'm really trying to think. I really do think it's a big answer, but some people are allergic to different things. Just be wary of the ingredients. But to me, it's just very, very healing. I'm sure there's a special stipulation out there. Definitely not one I could think of, but it would have to be pretty specific.
Yeah, I would agree.
Sense.
Awesome.
Yeah. So other than adding the hot water, do you have any other fun recipes or hacks?
Yeah. So on our social media and website, we really like to make recipes. We even like to make cocktails.
Tell us more.
Because alcohol, you're detoxing your body, and the bone broth, you're retoxing. So it really just cancels each other out. So we make some bone broth cocktails, and then we made some recipes. This one's pretty cool, where instead of using water for the quinoa, we use bone broth, and it gives it a lot more flavor, and it's still a way to incorporate it. We even throw it in smoothies. If I'm making a soup at home, you best believe that's the base, and that's like the ultimate hack, because you have this amazing, delicious base and just seamless, easy, great ingredients, no salt, because a lot of these soups could get salty. And a hack that one of our customers does, which I think is hilarious, they literally pour it on their leftovers to make it more moist and then get the benefit of the bone broth. So it's a great leftover hack.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Love that.
Right?
That's awesome. I imagine you could probably freeze it, make like a broth cube and throw it into soup or a smoothie if you're into savory smoothie.
We've done that too. We made bone broth cubes for our summer recipes, which was a hit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, but I'm with you on adding it to anything, because a lot of people get to the end of their cooking and then they have to add all the salt because it doesn't have flavor. But if you start with the broth base,
exactly,
makes your life easier and tastier.
Yeah,
exactly. All the things.
I'm like now wishing I had done that last night for my leftovers. I had some chicken sausage and veggies and I just heated it up, but it definitely could have used some broth.
You're like, just missing something.
Yeah. Next time.
Yesterday we could have avoided this issue.
I know. One day too late. That's okay, because then I got to drink it this morning. So
there you go. Whatever works.
Yeah. And I made a cup for my husband too, and he loves it.
Oh, I love that.
So that's always a good thing. Anything that he'll drink.
Totally. I love when people enroll the hubbies and boyfriends. It's amazing. And I get a lot of flack for that. They're like, well, Beauty in the Broth, don't you think it's a bit limiting to female? I'm like, not at all. Hubbies get dragged in all the time.
Yeah.
No, the men need the beauty as well. And I really do think there's more of a draw for it. More people are paying attention to that these days. So
totally.
Yeah.
I have friends whose boyfriends are more into the beauty than they are. Like they put like the face masks in the fridge and the eye cream. We all laugh. It's so
I love it. That's great.
I support.
Yeah.
So where can our audience find your broth? Tell us. all the things.
So we're a direct to consumer, thebeautyandthebroth.com. And then we are available at different Earth bars in the state of California. The One Hotel South Beach. Where else are we? All the Playfit studios in California. Very exciting. If you work at Facebook New York, we're in your offices come January 1. And a few other cool, exciting places that I do not want to jinx as of yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait,
That's
so at
great.
Facebook, it'll be like a hot broth bar?
They will have they have this pretty amazing pantry, and they source a lot of cool products to keep their employees and stuff healthy. So they're starting it in their New York offices where they, in the pantry, people could grab the broth just like you have it as the pouch, and there's hot water there, and
Awesome.
will really get rid of any brain fog.
Yeah.
Yeah. More companies should do that.
Can we get it into airports? How about that one?
I know airports is something I really, really want, especially to have it on these planes. The amount of time I sabotage myself in the airport or on the plane because of the lack of options. And now I just bring bone broth because A, I want to shoot content. B, I want to test my theory TSA and stuff. I always bring it through TSA, 3 ounces. And I always ask for hot water on the plane. And every time.
Yeah.
That's good to know. You can bring it through TSA. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. I would totally just sip on bone broth on a travel day. Like I try to fast, but I need a little bit of protein.
Yeah. I've done that. I've brought powders through and added hot water as well, but that would make my day if I could walk into an airport like a Hudson News and find a Beauty in the Broth on the shelf.
Totally. The
awesome.
next, put it in your carry-on, but I agree that it'd be way more convenient if it was just on the other side.
Yeah.
Working.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate everything that you're doing.
Yeah, I appreciate you ladies. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you so much. We're so excited to share this with our listeners. Before we let you run, though, we want to ask one final question. If you can share one final piece of advice, something that people can start doing today to improve their overall health and wellness.
Okay, we all know my answer is going to be bone broth, so I'm not going to because it's too obvious, but incorporate bone broth.
You can double down. It's all right.
That's a given. Yeah.
To improve your health and wellness, if you're not someone who exercises and you're obviously listening to this podcast, start going on long walks, listen to the podcast, and just, you have to incorporate exercise because it's more than appearances. When the second you work out, it changes what you want to put in your body. You start making decisions because you're like, whoa, I just did some work here. So if you're someone who doesn't work out, start with long walks, listen to podcasts, specifically this one. And from there, take it to a jog, take it to a run. And that it's so great to get some cardio in and keep your health up. It will make everything else fall into place in terms of choices you make for your diet as well.
That's great advice.
So we have 2 gateway drugs, broth and exercise.
And podcast.
And walking.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, sometimes it just takes one thing and then the behaviors start changing, and we love habit stacking or hack stacking. It's just small, simple acts that will change you over time. So we really appreciate that advice. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yes, you got it.
Yeah.
So you can find Melissa at The Beauty and the Broth on IG, also The Beauty and the Broth, and then personal Instagram. Do you do broth stuff on there? Or obviously
Just my Beauty and the Broth. It's at Melissa Bolona. I like to reiterate, Bologna has no G.
Got it.
Good point.
Noted.
Yep. Great. Well, we'll link to all that in the show notes so people can come find you and see all your fun stuff.
Wonderful. That sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Melissa, for spending your time with us today. We're so grateful for connecting with you. And thank you to everyone at home that tuned in today. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it. And thank you, everyone, for listening.
Thanks.